The old ranch stood like a forgotten promise beneath the endless western sky. Its broken fences leaned toward the earth, the barn looked as though one more storm would send it crashing into history, and weeds had swallowed the fields where horses had once thundered with pride. Everyone in the county laughed when they saw a quiet, humble cowboy spending every dollar he had to buy the abandoned place. They called him foolish, desperate, and hopeless. But none of them knew that buried beneath the cracked soil was not just forgotten land, it was the last chance for a man whose heart had already survived more pain than most people could imagine. And none of them could have imagined that one quiet afternoon, a beautiful young woman on horseback, the daughter of the wealthiest rancher for hundreds of miles, would ride through the broken gate and change both of their lives forever. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of never giving up, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Kindness Speaks. Your support helps us bring more heartfelt stories that inspire millions around the world. Jacob Turner had never been the strongest cowboy, the richest ranch hand, or the loudest man in the room. He simply worked harder than anyone else and carried a heart that refused to hate, even after life gave him every reason to. Raised by grandparents who taught him that a person's character mattered more than the size of their bank account, Jacob learned early that kindness often grew best in places where money could not. After losing his parents as a young boy, he spent years helping neighboring ranches, sleeping in old bunkhouses, repairing fences, feeding cattle before sunrise, and accepting whatever honest work came his way. He dreamed of owning land one day, but as the years passed, that dream slowly faded beneath bills, responsibilities, and disappointments. When the abandoned Hollow Creek Ranch appeared in a county auction, nobody wanted it. The buildings were collapsing. The well barely worked. Most believed the land had become worthless after years of drought and neglect. Wealthy ranch owners refused even to bid. They said restoring it would cost far more than it could ever earn. But Jacob saw something different. Standing on the dusty hill overlooking the property, he remembered something his grandfather once whispered while watching the sunrise. He had said that broken things were often waiting for someone willing to believe they could be whole again. Jacob emptied his savings, borrowed a little from an elderly friend who trusted his character more than any bank ever could, and bought the ranch with little more than hope in his pocket. The first months tested every ounce of his determination. Days began before dawn and often ended long after the stars filled the sky. He repaired fences one post at a time because buying new materials all at once was impossible. He collected discarded lumber from demolished buildings miles away. He fixed old tools instead of replacing them. His meals were simple, sometimes nothing more than beans, bread, and coffee. Every evening he stared across empty fields, wondering whether the ranch would ever become more than an expensive mistake. The townspeople watched from a distance. Some secretly admired his courage, but most expected failure. Every setback became another reason for people to shake their heads. Heavy rain flooded the lower pasture. Strong winds tore apart sections of the old barn roof that Jacob had spent weeks repairing. His aging pickup truck broke down repeatedly, forcing him to walk miles carrying equipment on his shoulders. Still, every morning he returned to work with quiet determination. Unknown to Jacob, another pair of eyes had begun noticing his efforts. Emily Harrison, daughter of the county's richest ranch owner, had spent her entire life surrounded by luxury. Her father owned thousands of acres, expensive horses, modern equipment, and employed dozens of workers. To outsiders, Emily seemed to have everything anyone could ever want. But wealth could not buy freedom. Every decision in her life had been planned by others. Every friendship was questioned. Every future expectation had already been written before she had the chance to dream for herself. Emily loved riding alone because it gave her rare moments of peace. One afternoon her favorite trail unexpectedly led her toward Hollow Creek Ranch. Curious about the smoke rising from the old chimney that had remained cold for years, she rode closer. There she found Jacob kneeling beside a frightened foal trapped beneath fallen fencing. Instead of becoming frustrated, he gently calmed the trembling animal, speaking with quiet patience while carefully freeing it without causing more injury. He never noticed Emily watching from the hill. That single moment lingered in her heart long after she rode away. She returned several days later, telling herself it was only because the trail happened to pass nearby. Again she found Jacob working tirelessly, repairing the old windmill beneath the blazing afternoon sun. Sweat covered his face, his hands were blistered, and his clothes carried patches sewn countless times. Yet there was peace in the way he worked, as though every nail driven into old wood carried hope for tomorrow. Over the following weeks Emily found more reasons to ride past Hollow Creek Ranch. She watched the broken property slowly transform. Wildflowers began appearing where weeds once dominated. The old porch was repaired. Chickens wandered happily around the yard. The barn roof slowly became whole again. Jacob greeted every passing traveler with a warm smile, whether they returned kindness or mockery. People in town began whispering when they noticed Emily visiting the forgotten ranch. Her father dismissed the rumors at first. He believed his daughter would soon lose interest in a poor cowboy with nothing but worn boots and impossible dreams. He could not have been more mistaken. Emily admired qualities she rarely found among wealthy businessmen. Jacob never boasted. He never complained about unfairness. He celebrated tiny victories that others ignored. When neighboring ranchers lost livestock during a violent storm, Jacob spent 2 days helping them recover animals despite needing every hour to repair his own damaged property. He expected nothing in return. Kindness had become his greatest wealth. As seasons changed, Hollow Creek Ranch slowly came back to life. The grass returned after careful soil restoration. A handful of rescued horses found safe shelter there. Travelers passing through often stopped simply because the place felt welcoming. Children loved visiting because Jacob patiently taught them how to care for animals and respect nature. Yet success also attracted unwanted attention. Several powerful land developers learned that valuable underground water reserves had recently been discovered near Hollow Creek. Suddenly the ranch everyone had laughed at became highly desirable. Wealthy investors approached Jacob with offers that seemed unbelievable. They promised enough money for him never to work again. Jacob politely refused every offer. The land was no longer just property. It had become home. The developers were not accustomed to hearing the word no. Soon strange accidents began happening. Fence posts disappeared overnight. Livestock escaped through mysteriously opened gates. Equipment was vandalized. Anonymous letters warned Jacob that he should sell before something worse happened. Fear visited his heart, but surrender never did. Emily quietly discovered who stood behind the intimidation. Several investors had secretly partnered with influential businessmen, including trusted associates of her own father. Although her father had not directly ordered any wrongdoing, he viewed Jacob's refusal as foolish and believed selling would benefit everyone. Emily faced the hardest decision of her life. Remain silent and protect family loyalty. Or stand beside what she knew was right. She chose courage. She gathered evidence of illegal intimidation and anonymously delivered it to county authorities. Investigations soon exposed corruption involving several developers. Public opinion changed almost overnight. The same townspeople who once laughed at Jacob now admired his integrity and perseverance. Her father eventually learned the truth. At first disappointment filled his heart. He believed Emily had embarrassed the family. But one evening, he quietly drove past Hollow Creek Ranch and saw something that wealth had prevented him from noticing for years. Jacob was serving dinner to several struggling families after a difficult harvest season. There were no cameras. No reporters. No applause. Just genuine generosity shared around simple wooden tables beneath glowing lanterns. For the first time in many years, the millionaire rancher questioned whether success should really be measured by money. Time continued its quiet work. The abandoned ranch transformed into one of the county's most respected places, not because it became the richest, but because it became the kindest. Injured animals found healing there. Lonely travelers found friendship. Children learned responsibility. Elderly neighbors discovered people willing to help without expecting payment. Jacob never forgot what it felt like to have nothing. That memory shaped every blessing he received. Emily's father slowly softened. Pride gave way to respect as he watched Jacob consistently choose compassion over profit. Eventually he visited Hollow Creek Ranch himself. Walking across fields that had once been abandoned, he realized no amount of expensive machinery could have created what one determined heart had built. The greatest harvest growing there was hope. Years later, when drought returned to neighboring ranches, Jacob opened his restored wells to anyone in need. Some of those asking for help had once mocked him most harshly. He welcomed them without mentioning the past. His forgiveness surprised everyone who witnessed it. Because true strength is often quiet. True wealth is often invisible. And true kindness asks for nothing in return. The county eventually stopped calling Hollow Creek the abandoned ranch. It became known as Hope Ranch because people believed impossible things could happen there. Couples celebrated weddings beneath the restored oak trees. Community gatherings filled the old barn with laughter. Children who once visited as curious youngsters returned as adults to volunteer, remembering the kindness they had received years before. Jacob often stood on the porch during sunset, remembering the first lonely day he had arrived. The broken buildings, the empty fields, and the endless doubts had all seemed larger than his dreams. Yet every repaired fence, every rescued horse, every forgiven enemy, and every life touched had proven that faith, patience, and compassion could rebuild far more than old wood and dry land. Sometimes the greatest miracle isn't finding treasure. Sometimes it's becoming the kind of person who creates hope wherever they go. Emily looked across the ranch one evening and realized she had never been drawn to Jacob because of what he owned. She had been drawn to the rare peace he carried within himself. Together they understood that love grows strongest where kindness is planted first. The people who once believed the humble cowboy had made the biggest mistake of his life now told his story to their children and grandchildren. They spoke of the man who refused to sell his dreams, who answered cruelty with grace, and who transformed an abandoned ranch into a place where broken hearts discovered new beginnings. Before this story ends, we have one heartfelt request. Please write in the comments, "Kindness always finds a way." Your words may encourage someone reading the comments who is silently fighting their own battles and needs hope today. And if this story touched your heart, reminded you to believe in second chances, or inspired you never to give up on your dreams, please like this video, leave a heartfelt comment, share it with your family and friends, and subscribe to Kindness Speaks. Every act of support helps us continue sharing stories that remind the world that kindness is never wasted. Because sometimes one humble heart can rebuild more than an abandoned ranch. It can rebuild faith, families, communities, and the belief that goodness still exists in this world. And that is a legacy worth leaving behind.